Insurance for HVAC businesses. I think everybody at some point should own their own business. It may not be for you, but you need to get a taste of what it takes, what's required to own a company. And if you own a company, you have to have insurance because you have to protect yourself, your customers, your employees, your vehicles, your property. Today, I'm at Vick Insurance Group with my friend and my insurance guy, Stephen Vick. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna answer some of those questions that you might have about insurance. You're watching HVAC Tips for Technicians. I'm Tad. Let's go learn about insurance. Hey Kathy, is Stephen available?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes.
Stephen, Tad's here for you.
Hey Stephen.
Hey man.
Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How you doing?
Excellent, man. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time today to sit down with me and teach everybody out there more about insurance.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Stephen is my insurance guy, and he's been providing me with a certificate of insurance for many years now. I'm a general mechanical contractor in the state of Tennessee, and you have to have insurance for certain projects, and you have to have insurance, that way you're protected. I'm actually Stephen's HVAC guy. I met Stephen over a decade ago, and since then we've been friends, and he's been able to help me with insurance. Stephen, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so our agency here at Vick Insurance Group has been here since 1987 with my mom. I bought the agency back in 2015, so it turned into a second generation company, and then since then I brought on my sons. And now we're a third generation company, and then we have a huge announcement coming in January. We've just bought another location, and so that will be coming out in January.
That's excellent, man. That's awesome. So let's get to the questions.
Okay.
I sent Stephen a list of questions that I had, not very many, but things that I thought that you may want to know, or things that you need to know when you're going to own an HVAC company. The first question I had for Stephen was, what are the certain policies for HVAC contractors if they have employees, if they don't have employees? What's the certain policies that we need to know about?
Okay, so just in a general sense, so the main policies that you need for an HVAC contractor would be your general liability, your commercial property, and then that can be combined into what's called like a business owner's policy. Then you would have your workers' comp and then your commercial auto. So if you think about it, you really got four main components of that policy for a contractor.
Got it. So the commercial vehicle that covers your vehicles, you got commercial vehicles, and that's important. You know, say that you have some type of collision, that insurance policy is going to come into effect. Then you got your workers' comp, and that is if you have employees.
Right.
So that's to protect you and your employees. Then you've got your general liability, and this is like the basic policy for anybody that's in the contracting business like myself,
right,
that's going out there and providing a service. So this is something you definitely need. And then the other one was the property, right? So if you've got a business, a location, that's going to cover all of your building, it's going to cover your equipment, right?
Right.
So not everybody is going to need all of those policies. You know, if you don't have employees, you may not need workers' comp.
Exactly.
If you have a vehicle, you probably need that insurance policy, especially if that is listed underneath your business, right? If it's not listed underneath your business, then you might not need that policy.
Exactly.
So that covers that. Then you got your property. What if you're working out of your home? You may not need that one as well. But if you do have a license and you are providing a service to somebody, then you will need the general liability. All right, that's the first question, man.
All right, and that general liability is huge because that is what is basically protecting you. You know, that's the thing that we want to see you being in business for year upon year. You know, and if there's any kind of suit that comes towards you, anything you're found liable for. So, you know, we lead with protection here. We're going to make sure that you are going to have the correct liability first. It's not cost first, it's liability first.
Got it. So if I'm starting out my business and I am just starting, then you definitely need general liability. It sounds like that's your first step. Not every business is going to start out and just scale to 10 employees. You're probably just going to start as a one-man show.
So it sounds like you're definitely going to need the GL as your protection. So general liability. All right, that's the first question, man. Thank you. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
All right, next question is, how much coverage do I need? Like, how much do I need to be insured for?
Okay. So when people think of coverage for any kind of business, your mind is actually going to that liability, like we were just talking about. And so we lead with liability first here at Vick Insurance, not cost. We're going to talk about what it takes to run a business, and we have never written a policy that's not going to have $1 million worth of liability.
Got it.
That's where we're going to start on your general liability, and then obviously, it just depends on where you're at in your work environment if you need more than that. So we'll just look at what size you are, your revenue, your location, what risk factors are involved in that. But typically we're going to start with $1 million general liability.
Got it. Okay, so it would change if you had a bigger business, if you were doing more commercial work. If you're doing residential work, it's probably that $1 million is probably gonna cover you. If you're at some residential homes. But if you're in a commercial setting, maybe if you're in an industrial setting, depending on how many trucks you got, how big your building is, how many employees you got, and that's where you would start factoring in those things, and then that would basically raise that policy coverage up a little bit more. Okay, that's the second question, man.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so what is the typical cost of a policy? My policy is in between like $15,000 and $2,000. But if depending on what kind of company, what kind of cost would I be paying for that policy every year?
Okay, that's a great question, and it's one that is just not easily answered because there's going to be a lot of factors that play into that.
Okay.
But a typical cost of, let's say, an artisan contractor, an HVAC guy that's just getting into this business and he's servicing only.
Okay.
Then he is going to be down maybe $500. Just depending on what kind of carrier. A lot of things that people need to understand is, insurance is, they're insuring you and how big of a risk you are, and you have an insurance score. It's much like your credit score and how you kind of take care of your own personal business. And so, you got to watch that. You got to be careful. Someone getting started out could be $500, but let's say that service guy is working out of his own truck. Well, number one, make sure that you contact your personal insurance company and let them know that, hey, I'm using my vehicle for business use. You probably will not change your premium much, but in the event, if you're on a job and you have an accident and they find out that you're utilizing that that vehicle as a business policy, yeah, they may pay that claim, but they're probably going to cancel you, because you weren't really coming forward with all the information. So make sure you tell your own personal company that, hey, I'm using this truck as business use. But let's say that service guy is doing that out of his own truck, and he has, $5,000-$10,000 worth of tools. Then that policy could read $700,000-$800,000, $1,000 worth of a policy. Then your next level guy, let's say he has a couple of employees, now he's got a payroll, now we're getting a workers' comp, hey, he's adding vehicles, now he's adding that commercial auto policy. This guy's going to get upwards, maybe $10,000, and then your next level guy, depending on the, commercial insurance and, commercial lines, that he's doing more commercial than residential, now he could be touching 20,000, and your larger shops are going to be probably 30,000 plus.
Wow. So okay, so I just learned a lot. I learned you need to be upfront about your vehicle and what you're using your stuff for, and you want to make sure that you're covered. And if you're not upfront about it, and you do get in an incident, you may not be covered.
That's exactly right.
Also, your insurance, you got like a score. So basically, it's based off of like how many claims you've had previously, and that could cause your policy price to go up. So not everybody's going to have the same price for the same policy. And geographically, when you're in different states, that's also going to factor, in. So you need to think about that as well. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Sounds good.
Pretty simple question. The duration of a policy. How long does that policy last?
Okay. Most all commercial policies are going to be a 1-year term. It's kind of cut dry to a 1-year term, and depending on what type of carrier that you have, whether that auto renews or not, you would be surprised how many people get upset at the end of this thing, and they, maybe they didn't continue their business or something. They call us a month after their policy renewed and say, hey, I didn't want this policy to continue. But read your contract. Your insurance policy is a contract, and if you're with a nice premium type of carrier, they're going to auto renew you. And if you or someone are working with an agent that possibly don't have that level of carrier, and he takes you to what is called like an E&S market, then that has a 1-year stop. And that has to be another contract that is going to move forward. But just be careful what kind of policy you have. Most of all of your policies with your level of HVAC contractors that you're probably talking to are going to auto renew, which is a good thing. That's the type policy that you want.
Yeah, because then you don't have a chance of having it lapse, and then you're doing business without being protected. But it brings me to the awareness now, and I need to let you know that you need to make sure that you ask your insurance provider about your policy. Is it an auto renew? Is it not an auto renew? That way you can know, hey, I need to come in. When do I need to come in? Oh, this January, this February, that's when the policy ends. So also look at your policy and figure out when your end date is. That way you get renewed on time, so that you're not unprotected out there working and then something bad happens. So
that's a great point. And then, if you're working with an agency that has certain metrics and things in place, we're going to make sure that you're being made aware of that renewal. We're going to send out, 60, 90-day renewal type letters, emails, letting you know, hey, has anything changed? Has our business grown? What's our revenue looking like next year? And that's not us just trying to pry to make more money. It's the protection aspect of it. It is one of those things that, hey, I was foreseeing $50,000 worth of gross annual sales as a service, and all of a sudden I'd done $150,000. When that happens, when you see that midterm, even midterm, think about it this way, man, I just hit a nice contract. I was only going to do 50 this year, and I wrote an insurance contract saying I need coverage for $50,000 amount of work. Well, now I'm going to do $150,000 amount of work. You got to realize there's a lot more liability out there on someone that's doing 150, 250 versus only servicing 25 units. So that's a different level of contract. And so you need to go ahead and let your insurance provider know, hey, I'm actually going to be up, because at the end of this thing, it's called an audit. All right, every general liability, you're going to be audited at the end of this thing. So at the end of your term, you're going to get audited for what you did the year before. And if you are upfront and doing the things that we need to be doing, letting our insurance carrier know, then that audit just kind of comes and goes, no big deal. Could actually get a little bit of money back. You may have to pay a little bit of money in if you had a great year. But stay on top of that throughout the year. Understand what your policy is. Make sure that you're having conversations with your agent.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like you could be really not covered for what you're doing, or you could be overpaying because you didn't, you weren't upfront about what you did. Things changed. So so as the business moves on, you really need to kind of update your insurance provider. That way you get the right coverage. So these are things to think about. And if really you're just going into this and you don't have an educated insurance provider like Steven, then you don't know what you need. So knowing what you need is going to be the difference between really you being covered or you not being covered. So this is good stuff, man. All right, so you've answered most of my questions that I had, actually pretty much all of them. What's the number one thing you get asked?
Number one thing in insurance is how do I lower premiums?
Ooh.
Period.
How to make it cheaper.
Yep. How do we make it cheaper? Okay. So that's the main thing as an insurance agent. It's difficult because we don't have a lot of control over that. Okay, so the premiums are premiums. It is what it is. When you are in the business that we're in, we want to lead with liability. Okay. Period. We want you protected. That's the main thing in a commercial line of business, that we want to see your business operate year after year after year, even through claims or any kind of catastrophes that might happen with your business. So when you think about what we could do to lower premiums, the main thing that we could do is look at your property schedule, or some of the property that you have, and look at possibly adjusting some of your deductibles. whether you're, running a $500 deductible because you're brand new and you don't have that capital behind you, to kind of help you out. But as you grow, then we need to probably raise that deductible. That is one way that we can, help show an insurance carrier. See, the main thing an insurance carrier wants to know that you're willing to carry some of this risk on yourself. And so when you raise a deductible to say $2,500 or $5,000, then the insurance carrier understands that you're the type of guy I want to work with because you're willing to mitigate some of these claims on your own. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I like to see is I want a relationship with my, I look at this as a partnership. I want Tad to call me and say, hey man, I was in here installing this the other day and I broke this guy's tile when I was in there. I was trying to, move this vent or whatever, and it's going to cost $700. The conversation I want to have with Tad is, you got a $500 deductible, so yeah, it's going to pay a little bit for you, but you need to really think about, would this change the way that I eat next week? Would this change the things that, my livelihood, or do I need to sit here and look at this and be like, all right, hey, let's get some quotes right here. And then, I want to pay for this out of my pocket. This was my job. It looks like it's going to be $600, $700, $800. And look at trying to pay for those small claims. Mm-hmm. Now, it could be viewed that I'm sitting here trying to educate you guys to trying to talk you out of filing a claim. Mm-hmm. No, it needs to be a partnership. Because if it don't change the way that you eat, you need to look at paying that on your own, mm-hmm. because it will save you drastically down the road.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to allow us to put you with more preferred type of carriers that are looking at businesses that year after year work claims free. Mm-hmm. You need to also understand that you're not buying this policy to replace somebody's tile. You're buying this policy to protect your life. And so you're buying this policy in the event of that $50,000 claim, that $100,000 liability claim. That's when the insurance comes in and takes care of you and keeps you moving forward.
Got it. So everybody out there may not know what deductible is, but mm-hmm. deductible is basically something that you would pay, the amount that you agree to pay in the case that something does happen and you have to use your insurance. So you raising your deductible from $500 to $2,500, like Steven said, is going to lower your premium, and that your premium is basically your packaged price for mm-hmm. that policy. Mm-hmm. Something also that I'd like to mention is every year I get something that's a certificate. It basically is a proof of my insurance. Mm-hmm. So when you do get that policy, you do pay that premium, you should get something in the form of a piece of paper, or you can get it digital, electronically through your email. This is something you should have from your insurance provider when you do pay that premium and you do get a policy. So I want to say that, and also I want you to know what deductible is. So it sounds like to me that I need to eat the small cases. Absolutely. And I need to save my insurance for what it's really for, and that is to protect my life basically and to protect my business, because you don't want to take and do a bunch of small claims where you could afford that and then your premium just skyrockets and you're paying a lot more every year for the same insurance. So that's what it sounds like.
Absolutely. And when you think about filing claims, when would you start getting surcharged for a claim? Insurance carriers, they don't mind that one-off claim, even if it's $50,000. What they don't like is to sit there and see that you filed 3 $700 claims this year. They obviously are seeing you as someone that is not a good steward over your own money, and that they're going to come off of you. They would have that non-renewing you. And then when that happens, when you get a non-renewal, then we're going to take you from this preferred type of carrier. Now we're moving you down the food chain. Insurance cost goes up, and then we may have even to go to an excess surplus lines market where it's that year-to-year contract. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot more work on you. It's a whole lot more work on your agent. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing that I could say is develop a great relationship with your agent, and communicate with those claims. The other thing is he had mentioned certificate. Make sure that you're working with someone that is in the commercial line space. Someone like Tad may work for 50 different contractors, throughout the year. Well, at his renewal, he don't want to sit there and do all this paperwork to make sure all of his contractors are updated. You have someone like us with systems in place. When he renews, we'll mass send all those certificate of insurance. So unless he picks up a new contractor, all of his contractors are going to get his renewal policy.
Awesome, man. That's excellent, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate the help. I'm here to help Steven if he needs HVAC. He's here to help me if I need insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely need insurance because I cannot work and own a business or operate with an HVAC company without insurance. You're not going to get the projects, you're not going to get the bids, customers are not going to trust you, and they're not going to feel safe and protected. So you got to get insurance out there. If you guys want to contact, you want to get a quote, click this link right here, and this will send you to Steven's website, and you'll be able to get a quote. You'll be able to contact him if you got any questions. If you guys like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell, ding, so you know what I'm doing. You've been watching HVAC Tips for Technicians. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.
Thanks, bro.
Yes, sir.